Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance and more, and Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.
This is Legal Live with Eddie and Chuck Farah. They're talking the latest legal news and answering your questions. To call Legal Live and ask Eddie and Chuck a question, grab your phone and dial 855-765-1045. That's 855-765-1045.
Welcome. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. We've got a special guest today from the Farah and Farah ensemble, from the Department of Medical Malpractice. It's Kevin Wayne Moore himself.
Good morning or afternoon. Nice to meet everybody.
So we're going to be discussing some medical malpractice things. If you have any questions, give us a call at 855-765-1045. We're going to have a great show today. Kevin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a good Saturday afternoon. It's kind of pretty outside, and I'm in here with you. Sounds great.
Yeah, I think so. It's a beautiful day as well.
The microphone, I guess.
So we just did a little tour around the building. That was fun. We checked out the newsroom, the break room,
yes, very much
the
so.
live studio.
Yep.
How does it feel to be back at the station doing another show?
It feels great to be back here. It's been a long time. You know, I love coming back here every chance I get to come do a radio show.
It's pretty cool stuff, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So tell me a little bit about, like, just for people like me that may not know much about what medical malpractice is.
So I guess medical malpractice is essentially a form of a tort. It would be classified under personal injury, and it involves generally malpractice or a breach of the standard of care by a physician, a nurse, a hospital, any sort of medical provider that falls within the purview of the medical malpractice scheme or statutes. It's a very kind of statutory-driven area of the law because even in pre-suit, as opposed to other cases such as auto or premises liability, the pre-suit in med-mal has specific deadlines and various notices that have to be filed. So it's a bit of a different beast, if you will, than the other forms of negligence or traditional tort cases.
Wow. I understood about half of that, but I like the answer. So there's actually like a pre-lawsuit that you have to do.
Correct.
Essentially.
Correct.
Okay.
And before you can ever file a lawsuit in a med-mal claim, you have to investigate the claim. You have to get an affidavit from a physician of a similar specialty as the physician you plan to sue.
Oh, I see.
Essentially saying that the other doctor was negligent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you file a notice of intent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the 90-day waiting period. Yeah, correct.
Wow.
So there's a lot goes on before suit is ever filed.
I see. So as far as like medical malpractice, I'm sure that's something that physicians and nurses and medical people definitely don't want to be sued for anything like that. So what are some precautions that they have to protect themselves?
Well, interestingly, I would say that if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at this a couple of weeks ago, around 2% of physicians are responsible for 39% or 40% of all med-mal. So you have a lot of repeat offenders. So it's not as if, all physicians are necessarily negligent or bad practitioners. There's generally a small group of them who commit the vast majority of stuff over and over again. As a matter of fact, I have a case now with a physician that I would have a case against about 6-7 years ago. So it's the same guy again.
Wow, I see.
So it generally, you have, there's a specific set of actors you tend to see over and over.
That is interesting. In a way that's kind of comforting. It's not something that, like...
Agreed.
It's something that's a repeat offender thing, but I guess, so if patients want to investigate their doctor to make sure that, like, they're clean, their record's clean, there's a way for them to be able to look up whether there's been any previous cases.
Correct. There is. I can't recall exactly the name of the website, but I always type in Google Florida Medical License Check, and it'll take you where you need to go. You can type in the name of your physician, and it'll tell you if he's had any suits against him in the last 10 years, what they settled for. It'll tell you if he's been disciplined by the Board of Medicine. It'll give you any information you really need to know about him in making a decision. So it's kind of an always starting point before you go see a doctor, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Wow. And that was the Florida, what was that again?
I type
Florida.
in Florida. It's the Florida Board of Medicine, but I can't recite the website offhand. But if you type in Google Florida Medical License Check, it'll take you right where you want to go.
Nice.
So
That's actually a really good idea.
So.
And I assumed that with doctors, if they get sued in the medical malpractice, that they just lose their license and then they're done, and they have to
No. No, they have a 3 strikes and you're out type rule, but it only applies to verdicts, and it only applies if the Board of Medicine decides to grant them a strike. It's really not. No. And then they continue to practice pretty much forever, and you'll have scenarios where doctors who have been their license has been revoked in another state will come here, and they can get a license and practice again.
Oh, I see.
So yeah.
Tricky.
Yeah, well, it's not really tricky. It's just kind of it should never be allowed, in my opinion, that if your license has been revoked in Colorado, you should come to Florida and get a new license. In my opinion.
I see. Yeah. Well, so as far as malpractice cases, I think we actually have a caller on the line. Check it out.
Okay.
We'll get to Jim in just a moment, but I have one more question for you. So, what are some examples of common malpractice issues that you've seen, like just maybe common mistakes that people make that maybe patients and the public should be aware of?
I think that's kind of a hard situation to answer a question because there's the variety of medical specialties doesn't lend itself to a categorization very easily of there's not a real formula, and there's not really a specific set of med mal I see more than others.
Okay.
I guess if I had to say one thing that seems to be the area you see the most negligence would be OBGYNs. But that's because they're dealing with an area that's kind of already tenuous when you have infants and things like that being dealt
Gotcha.
So,
with pregnancies and
correct.
just the female human body. And
Correct. Birth is already,
tough
it's
enough.
already a tough time. So
yeah,
a lot can go wrong. So.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think everyone who's had a child out there is just hope for one thing: 10 fingers, 10 toes, and the baby's healthy.
Yeah, I have 2 of them myself. I didn't have them personally, but they're mine.
Yeah, but you claim them.
I do.
You picked them up from the hospital.
Most times, yes.
There you go. Well, let's get to. We're about to take a quick break, actually, and then we've got a caller listening online. We will be right back, and we'll get to Jim in just a moment. You've been listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. Give us a call at 855-765-1045. We'll be right back after this quick break. Alrighty, welcome back to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Shieifalika, and I'm joined today by Kevin Wayne Moore. We've got a caller on the line. Kevin, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
All right, let's do this. Jim, you are listening online, apparently, from Palm Coast. What's going on, Jim?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim.
Question about, I'm a homeowner, and I signed a contract in June of last year with a contractor to do a small remodeling inside our home. And between the 10% down payment and other monies I paid to buy material, nothing has happened. And we're kind of thinking, the wife and I are kind of thinking, is this like a hobby they're doing, or is this are they way behind? And I'm kind of curious what my options would be if I need to back out of the contract, or I'm not sure what to do.
So, Jim, let me just flesh this out for you a bit. So you paid a 10% down payment, you said last summer?
In June of 2021, that's correct.
Okay. And no work has been started?
No work has been started.
Okay. Do you have like a written contract with these folks?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a written contract with them?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I had to sign a contract with them in order to start the process.
So to be fair, this isn't my area traditionally. I do med mal, but if you have a written contract, I would suggest you look at it to see if there's like a revocation clause where if they don't begin work in set period of time, then you can revoke the contract. Um, that would probably be my angle, because if they're not started now, it's almost a year down the road. If they do start, it might go on for who knows how long. So
right.
I probably wouldn't use these guys if I were you.
What if they don't have that clause in the contract?
Well, if they don't have a clause, I don't specifically know what the contract says, so I really can't speculate as to what it might be. But
okay.
I mean, if you've given a down payment and they haven't started work within a reasonable period of time, I mean, your recourse would be either ask for your down payment back. Have you asked them? And they may just give it back to you and be done with it. Or the name of the company, look them up like on sunbiz.org. sunbiz.org, and see if they're licensed, see what their LLC name is, to see if they're registered with the state. There are various things you can do, but it's been a long time. I mean, obviously they may say that because of COVID they have a backlog. I don't know,
right?
But the first step always is probably to approach it from a congenial atmosphere and try to ask them specifically, hey guys, you haven't started this job. Can I just get my money back and be done with it? They may very well just give it back to you. You never know until you try.
Okay, I just want to double check, because I know that sometimes things get kind of lost in the shuffle and everything, and I just wasn't really exactly sure what to do because they are licensed. I checked on that when I first signed the contract.
Sure.
So I'll have to go at it from that angle, I guess.
Well,
all right, I appreciate your.
I would say the first step, then, Jim, would just to be to ask them to give you your down payment back so you can move on and find somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate your help, Dan, and your suggestions.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for calling, Jim. And just as a sidebar, if you do pursue any legal matters, you want some counseling or some advice, we do have a phone number here for the Jacksonville Bar Association. It's 904-339-4486. You can maybe find a legal expert there and just get a quick synopsis of what to do with these type of situations, because this is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and you can call the Jacksonville Bar Association, or you could probably call Farah and Farah. Maybe someone there can help you as well.
That's true. Yeah, you guys do a little bit of everything, don't you?
Well, yeah, I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So as far as medical malpractice is concerned, you must have to have like a team of people to be able to take on, hospitals, doctors, or any like issues like that.
Correct. There are a few of us at the firm who practice in this area. That'd be myself. That'd be Larry Hutman, Dahlia Farah, Laura Britton, Charlene, and Myra. And that's pretty much the extent of the folks we have at this time who are working in this area. But it's a fairly significant amount of people, and we two of them are nurses, so we have a couple of nurses on staff who can review the cases and give us good medical opinions.
Nice.
And between Larry and myself, I would guess there's probably 35, 40 years of experience in med-mal. So
that's amazing.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And Dahlia's she's learning the ropes. She's obviously very bright, and she's going to be working with us going forward in this area. So
that's pretty cool. What a beautiful name, by the way, Dahlia. I like that. So as far as like, I've heard of horror stories. Maybe I'm just a layman. Obviously I am, but I've heard of horror stories where like a surgeon will forget a sponge or something important inside somebody's abdomen, and they'll sew them back up, and then they'll have problems later on and have to go back in and take it out. Is that something that's common, or is that just a fluke of nature?
I wouldn't say it's common. I've dealt with probably 3 to 4 cases in that like similar to that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
They leave a foreign object in your body. It can be a sponge. It can be
a cell phone.
Yeah. Cell phones. I have not seen that one before. I would say that Generally, it's a gauze or a sponge or some sort of packing material they're using to dress a wound. Something that is easily, concealed by blood or
Tissue
the
and
fleshy material in your body. So, it's not generally. Those are the most common objects I've seen. So, but again, that's not a usual scenario. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's very common.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that part.
Yeah, me too.
I remember reading a few years ago that surgeons have developed this new checklist type thing, which I think they took from the aviation industry with pilots who always have a checklist going into and out of a flight, and that having a checklist in the surgical operating room has decreased the amount of malpractice, had decreased the amount of mistakes, because they just don't have to think of every single thing. They go down the list. They'll make sure that they get everything done properly. So
I would say that's probably true. I mean, when you in any sort of operative procedure, there's generally a team of folks. Obviously, it's not just a surgeon. There's going to be a surgical tech, a nurse, if there's anesthesia involved, an anesthesiologist, and everyone in the room has kind of responsibility for ensuring that things are done appropriately. And there's a check at the end of the procedure to make sure that all the items are accounted for, so there's nothing left in your body.
right.
And
that part.
Yeah, that part. And then but to say that the checklist has made malpractice less, I don't know that I've necessarily seen that reflected in what in my day-to-day practice. But hopefully that's the case. But obviously during COVID, there was not as many cases because a lot of med mal occurs during elective procedures. And during
really?
COVID, there wasn't a lot of elective procedures going on.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So there was a decrease at that time. Now things have kind of picked back up. So you're kind of seeing things come back to status quo, if you will. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that a lot of malpractice occurs during, optional or elective.
Correct, it does. I mean, I wouldn't say the majority, but, bariatric surgeries, plastic surgeries, breast implants, reductions, various things like that, tummy tucks, all those various procedures can be done negligently. And it's not as if because it's elective, it's your fault. I mean, you still expect someone to do it, within a reasonable degree of medical care.
Right.
So, just because it's elective doesn't mean that, it's your choice, it's your fault. That's not how it works.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, too. I'd like to pick that up when we come back from commercial break. But I think that it's a really interesting issue. And usually with the Legal Live, we have a lot of talks about, cars and insurance and stuff like that. But this is a really interesting show to bring in medical issues. So if you've got,
I agree.
Yeah, if you've got questions regarding medical malpractice issues or just questions about the process, give us a call at 855-765-1045. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. You are listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah. This is 104.5 WOKV Jacksonville's News and Talk. Give us a call. We would love to hear from you. We've got a special guest today, Kevin Wayne Moore, and our phone number is 855-765-1045. Right now, we've got a caller on the line.
Okay,
Kevin, you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Who we got?
Let's do it. We got Lori from Jacksonville. What's going on, Lori? Tell us what's up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yes, please. The question is, I have a daughter who's 18 years old, and we were trying to put her name on her car, her name in her own title, and insurance in just her name, because we feel like there could be a lawsuit against the parents, us as the parents, if she was in an accident. And I was wondering if that's true. Would you just have it separate with her name and not on our policy?
Yeah, the insurance policy, not so much of a problem, but the title itself, most definitely so, because if the both of you own the title and she's a permissive user of the car, then you could certainly be liable for any injuries or accidents that she causes. So keep the title separate. But if insurance policies itself don't matter so much, but the title, the ownership of the car needs to be strictly if you want to avoid liability for anything she does, not in your name.
Right. Okay. And she has to be living, she's going to move in May, so I probably need to do it later when she moves, or put the address she's going to move to, do it soon. Is that what you would do?
I don't know that it really matters for a title. I mean, you can change the address on the title, if you need to. I mean, I don't even know the title for my car. I don't know if the address has ever been changed, to be fair. So I would say that just get it out of your name as soon as possible if you're concerned about it. I mean, obviously, she's 18. She's old enough to own a car. She's old enough to purchase insurance. So I would say to avoid any sort of – should she have an accident tomorrow and your name is on the car, then you're going to be responsible for it.
Right, that's something. And I thought insurance, too, even if you had an umbrella policy – for your child, it can go above that amount on the insurance. Let's just say it's a $300,000 policy.
That's correct. Your insurance
damage.
Your insurance would be liable. Insurance, but I'm talking specifically about personal liability. You as a person would not be liable if your name is not on that title. If you're not an owner of the car, your insurance company is a different story. And to make it clean cut, probably best to have her own policy separate from you. But that's a bit of a different question, I guess, than just the legal owner of the car.
In the title.
Correct.
Right, I got you.
So, but I would say, to make it easy, I would just keep them or keep them both separate. Keep insurance and the title separate from you.
Right, for me, that's what I was thinking. Because kids get in accidents, and again, someone could sue you over and above the insurance policy, $300,000. Now you killed 10 people in a car, or
correct.
I mean, hit a building and killed the building caught on fire, and then they're coming after the parents.
That's true. In Florida, it's called the dangerous instrumentality doctrine. So it makes you strictly liable for anyone using a car that you're an owner of, permissively. Now, if they steal your car and hurt somebody, then you're not. That's a different story. But under these scenarios, just get it in your daughter's name, not yours. It's the best advice I can give you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll call you if we need your help.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling, Lori. We've got another caller on the line, and this is a medical malpractice question. Look at this. Charles from Palm Coast. What's going on, Charles?
Hey, Charles.
Oh, I'm afraid. I don't know if we can mention the name of the primary physician group, but they've been sued before. But we've been customers for years, and my wife had a very unfortunate situation with about 5 or 6 doctors over the course of the years. There was a 6-year recall on her medication, and nobody monitored it, and they kept prescribing the medication for all 6 years, and it was poisonous. And she ended up having first the 3rd stage of kidney disease, then the 4th stage. Then she had almost complete liver failure. She was a healthy person. And in all of the 6 years, they kept prescribing this medication because they never monitored it. So there's about 5 or 6 doctors that have an untarnished medical career, but one of them got charged with medical malpractice by the Florida Department of Health. And she is still, she's now handicapped with some confusion, mind confusion, and physical exhaustion every day. And we had a problem because this all happened during the COVID-19, and the Florida Department of Health took a full 2 years, our entire statute of limitation, to do the investigation. In fact, it was almost an anniversary day when they came up with a judgment of medical malpractice on the one doctor. Now, it's quite a big case because there's about 5 or 6 other doctors. We have all the medical records. We have everything, the recall information. I'm a presidential advisor board member to President Trump. I even got 2 letters from President Trump compassionately about my wife's experience. It's just been a horror show. And what we have now is a little bit of time left, apparently, on our statute of limitation, because the statute of limitation runs from the discovery of the crime, which was, in this case, negligence.
Correct. It's 2 years from the day you knew or should have known of the injury or the negligence, but no more than 4.
Okay. But no more than 4. Okay, well, what we want to do is we just got a letter from a Texas attorney who was in contact with us, and he says there's people getting paid off, I guess, by the pharmaceutical company. It was a common high blood pressure medication that went into recall. A second opinion doctor.
Hey, Charles, let me give you another potential option here that would avoid a med mal limitations issue. Would be if you're pursuing the pharmaceutical company directly, that would be a products liability claim, which is subject to a different statute of limitations. And that's another option to consider. I don't know the specifics.
What's the statute limitation on a pharmaceutical?
I believe it's 4, as a regular tort would be. General torts are 4 years. So when did this event occur, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we're tying it down as close as we can. I have a friend that went to the computer and discovered this recall that ran from 2014 to 2020 for 6 years, and we think we're still within the statute of limitation, but of course it was extenuating circumstances. Everybody waited. We had an attorney. He waited for the judgment by the Florida Department of Health, which came in exactly 2 years from the day we started the investigation. So we had extenuating circumstances to begin with. So people have talked to us about tolling process, which I think gives you another 90 days. We don't know the exact date. We're trying to tie it down.
Well,
and that's the truth.
You can file a petition to extend the statute of limitations, which will give you another 90 days. But you have to file that petition.
Will an attorney do that for me?
They can, but you have to file that petition within the 2-year statute period. So if the statute's already ran, you can't then file it and get another 90 days. You have to file it within the initial statute of limitations period. So, I mean, if you have an attorney now, what I would suggest generally is, it's a little questionable to address someone who's already represented by another attorney. And I would suggest, have you approached this with him?
Well, let me stop you right there. We've been solicited by 4 attorneys. The first one we didn't find that was just too restrictive of the contract. The second attorney was a wonderful attorney. His name is John Dill. And he held our signed contract for 5 months. The Florida bar said he did nothing wrong, but he took up 5 months for our statute of limitation. So, our statute of limitation was going by, and we of course, it's a day you discover the crime.
Sure.
The diagnosis. My wife was a second opinion doctor, within the same primary physician group. He told my wife he ordered her off her medication immediately. And a wonderful thing happened. 1 week later, her stage 4 kidney disease went to stage 3. One week later, her liver.
So Charles,
liver failure.
Charles, let me say this to you: the 5-month period that your previous attorney took to review things is not unusual. Number one, because it's a med mal claim, so it's going to require a lot of front end work.
He never signed the contract. He never signed the contract for 5 months.
Okay.
So he kept us in limbo.
Okay.
And the Florida bar suggested that our primary physician group may have solicited him with a financial advantagement to do just that, to run out the statute of limitations.
Well, I'll say this. It sounds like a lot more involved than necessarily a med mal claim going on here. I mean, if your attorney is specifically, if he negligently missed the statute of limitations, you would also have a legal malpractice claim potentially.
So you don't have an attorney. That's what he just said.
We don't have an attorney. We're seeking an attorney. We just got a letter from an attorney that goes back a year or so, and he said they're starting to collect on this, and he wants to get in touch with us. So we sent him an email of all the case history.
Charles, let me tell you this. Let me say this. As opposed to going into any more detail, on the radio, I would think this would be a better issue for me to call you later and discuss with you, okay? Because anything
that would be wonderful.
That would be the best way. Because if we talk about it here, the attorney-client privilege is lost. So let's just wait, and I'll give you a call. Why don't you give us? Well,
you can give your phone number to our producer, actually, Charles, and then
we'll do. Thank you. Thank you. You're a wonderful service. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I'll hang on the phone and give you a number.
Thank you so much, Charles, and good luck to you, and good luck to your wonderful wife.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll leave my number with you. You tell me when you want my number.
Okay, so our producer, as soon as we go to break, our producer will grab your phone number for you, and we're going to go ahead and just go to break so we can get you connected. You've been listening to Illegal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. Feel free to give us a call. We have a few more minutes left of the show, 855-765-1045. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. We've got a caller on the line. Let's jump right in. We've got a few more minutes left of the show. Carla from Jacksonville, you have a medical malpractice question.
Hey, Carla. It's Kevin.
Hi. Yes, I have I'll try to summarize it really quick. When my son was 3, I took him into the hospital because his eyes were red. They said it was pink eye. It's the worst he'd ever seen. They had given him drops. He ended up going blind the next day. And they don't know what happened to this day. They still don't know what happened. They said that that it wasn't pink eye. It ended up not being pink eye. It was it might have been a viral infection, but they didn't know because they didn't know. Basically, what I was wondering is my son is 19 now, and he wants to pursue something. And he said that I was wondering because he heard that the statute of limitations was 2 years.
Well,
after he turned 18 to pursue something for himself.
So that's going to be a bit of a problem. I'll say, but generally with a minor, if he was 3 at the time, he would have until his 7th birthday, which would be kind of on his parents' shoulders, or a guardian or whoever was the legal representative for him, to pursue such a claim. But again, there could be some other issues involved if there were any things involving fraud. So here's what I'd say. Again, because we're getting into specifics of a claim, I'm a little leery to discuss it on a radio show, because the reason being is because if we talk about it and you do have a case, well, then it's going to be on the radio. So I would rather discuss this kind of thing with you after the show, and we can take your number, and I will be happy to call you if that's okay with you.
Okay.
That sounds great. So hypothetically speaking, if something happens when you're young, just for me to understand.
Sure.
If you have some type, like you lose a finger and then they glue the wrong finger back on, I don't know what's happening. Just, you have to wait. You still have like statute of limitations even if you're a minor?
You still have statute of limitations even if you're a minor.
So correct. You don't have to wait till you're an adult? No, you can't.
Okay. Your parent or your legal guardian would bring the claim on your behalf. So it would be, for example, Carla as mother and natural guardian of your son.
So and so, yeah, okay.
So that's how the claim would be brought.
Okay.
And then you would collect the parent or the guardian will collect, should there be a recovery, would collect the damages and the anything from a settlement or a verdict, and you hold it in trust essentially for the child. It's ultimately their money,
right?
But
okay,
but you have the responsibility to make sure that you keep it, in trust for them.
Well, I mean, Carla, I think that it's just incredible to me that within a day or so, your child was blind, but that's an interesting thing.
Carla, did you speak with anyone around the time this occurred, or no?
I did, and they told me they didn't know what was going on because they didn't know why. They've never given me to this day a reason of why he's gone blind.
Okay.
They thought he had junior rheumatoid arthritis, so they put him on methotrexate, and then one day they decided, no, he doesn't have that anymore.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right, Carla. Well, thank you for calling.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's definitely got some good details here. We've got your phone number. Our producers will pick up. Our producer Daniel will go ahead and grab your number there. I think it's a really interesting field of law that medical malpractice that you bring up.
It is. I find it very. I mean, it's. You never have a case that is the same as the one before. So it's not as if you have. You're dealing with a different medical specialty in most cases, be it cardiology, neurology, neurosurgeons, orthopedics, and it's always a different mechanism of injury. And the longer you do it, the more you learn, medical terminology and just medicine overall, which I find very fascinating. So that's why I like this area of the law for the most.
Yeah. I think it sounds like you've been passionate about this. Like,
it's all I've ever done, really, for since 2007. So how long that is.
So just to recap, I guess some good tips for the public and the community. Make sure you double check your doctor's, Florida Board of Medicine. Do a license check just to see if there's been any history there.
Sure thing.
And what was that other website you mentioned to?
So that was sunbiz.org. That doesn't really apply to doctors so much, but if there's a practice group, you can check. That becomes more relevant if you're going to actually pursue a claim against them, because it'll give you the information regarding who their registered agent is, their address, that kind of thing.
Right. So. And where can people find you, by the way?
They can find me at Farah and Farah, of course.
That's
best
right.
firm in town.
That's right. Best firm in town. Okay.
So that's where I'm at. So they can find me there.
Okay, cool. I think it's been a really fascinating topic. Thank you so much to the callers today, Jim, Lori, Charles, and Carla. We really appreciate you calling in. And thank you so much, Kevin Wayne Moore.
My pleasure.
This has been fun today.
Yes, ma'am, it has. Thank you.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. Had a good time. Can't wait till next time. It'll be fun.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. We will be back again next week for another incredible episode. Who knows who I'll be talking to?
Not going to be me. Y'all have a good weekend, though.
I love it. So join us again for Legal Live with Farah and Farah next week at noon on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Shieifalika, and we'll talk to you next time.
Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance and more, and Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.